Well, it's that time of the year again. It's Breeders' Cup time, and we've got 14 Breeders' Cup races, 5 on Friday, 9 on Saturday, and it's going to kick off with the new Breeders' Cup race, or I should say the newest Breeders' Cup race, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Now, everybody should know there's no better way to play the Breeders' Cup races than to play them through NYRA Bets. We have a special promotion that'll run through this Saturday and through Saturday's races, November 3rd. You bet $200 and you'll get $250. Promo code is BC250 if you bet that $200 through the Breeders' Cup races, and there's plenty of action both at Aqueduct and, of course, the Breeders' Cup races as well. And once you become a member of NYRA Bets, there are always many promotions, a 10% winner's bonus on all doubles on Breeders' Cup races all throughout the cards. 4 of them, of course, on the Breeders' Cup card on Friday, and 8 doubles on the Breeders' Cup card on Saturday. Here's the field for the Breeders' Cup, the inaugural Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprints. And this one is wide open, and it certainly feels like there should be a lot of pace. And a horse that's getting an enormous amount of attention, and for good reason, is the 2 Soldiers Call. Because Soldiers Call did something that you're just rarely going to see. He ran as a 2-year-old and ran against older horses in the very prestigious Group 1 Prix de l'Abeille, the sprint on the Art card at Longchamp. And Soldiers Call ran extremely well in this race, but it's also important to point out that the horse we'll see a little bit later had some trouble in there. We'll talk about that in another video as we cover these Breeders' Cup races. Here's the problem with Soldiers Call. I think people are getting overly excited by the fact that he faced olders and almost won. And I'm not knocking him. He's a terrific horse, and he ran very well. But he gets a huge weight break. I mean, look at the charts. He was only 6-1. It's not as though it was a major upset that he ran as well as he did. And the other problem is he is going to face, in all likelihood, much more intense speed in this race. Wesley Ward has a plethora of horses. There's a Todd Pletcher horse we'll be talking about shortly that has plenty of speed. So it figures for me to be tough on the front end for Soldiers Call and perhaps any of the speeds. And that's one of the reasons that Soldiers Call is not in my play. I respect him as a horse, but I think this is a very different scenario, and I also think he might end up being a little bit overbet. A major wild card in this race is the aforementioned Bulletin for trainer Todd Pletcher. Bulletin, Todd had this horse training at Saratoga, shipped down to Florida, ran this horse in a stake as a first-time starter, and clearly his intention was to do what he could to qualify for this $1 million Breeders' Cup race. And Bulletin, he was hard-ridden. It's not as though he won easily, but he buried the field in here and ran a very fast figure. His Beyer figure of 86, his Timeform US rating of 105 are both top figures in this field. The problem with the 5 Bulletin is he a speed? Does he need the lead? The pace wasn't that fast at Gulfstream. The pace is going to be faster here. And also keep in mind, a lot of rain expected on both Wednesday and Thursday down at Churchill Downs. How's he going to handle a course that's much more rain softened? I have great respect for Bulletin. I also don't think he's going to be 10-1 in this race. I don't think you can fail but notice how well he ran in there. Maybe he's a horse that will rate comfortably in here, and he certainly won't shock me if he wins. I'll use him defensively, but he's got a lot of questions to answer. A very, very different race. An impressive run by Strike Silver down at Keeneland, to win the Indian Summer, which was a 2-year-old prep race for this. The second-place finisher, Chelsea Cloistered, had about as perfect a trip as you could possibly want in this race. Now, you could argue, well, he was close to a pace, or she was, that collapsed late, and I think that's very fair. But I still think she had the run of the race and was supposed to win. Strike Silver, I mean, this horse broke a little slow, was steady back to last, didn't really know what he was doing coming in the stretch, and he ended up making this monstrous run. You've got to be impressed by it. The problem I have was the race just didn't come up that fast. So was he impressive because he was running in a weaker field, or was he really just impressive? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you something. I am much more interested in Europeans in this race. And I think the first European we have to talk about is Sergei Prokofiev. Now, I'm not going to show his last race, which was the Cornwallis, which they ran down at Newmarket. And he had an absolutely perfect trip. There was a fast pace, and he had an unencumbered run from well back in the pack. Well Done Fox, who's in here, he comes back out of that race. I don't think he's impossible. And I also think there's other horses to look at from Europe. Sergei Prokofiev is the horse to beat in all likelihood. But do you really want a short price that's going to be coming from last? But Aidan O'Brien has done well in these turf sprints before. He ships, though, a lot of horses here, including the 10 So Perfect. And I think So Perfect is very dangerous off of nice performances behind the talented Fairyland and advertised in the last 2 races. And I think the number 10 So Perfect is a big-time
big-time player in this race, along with Sergei Prokofiev. But there's another horse that I want to look at, and that's actually a horse who's going to be my top pick. I'm trying to figure out where he is, and that's Pocket Dynamo. He finished 5th in the race that we were talking about with trouble. He was 2nd in this race behind Shang. Due to my negligence, I did not report to have him circled here, but you're going to see him losing by a nose to the talented Shang for trainer Wesley Ward. Now, unlike Shang, who won this race, and this was a terrific performance, Joel Rosario getting to the finish line, Shang has not run since this race in June. So he's coming off a 4.5-month layoff, where Pocket Dynamo, who finished behind him, has got a couple of races. But most importantly, Pocket Dynamo was coming off of a layoff last time when he finished 5th, and he should have been 3rd. He wasn't beating Sergei Prokofiev. He wasn't beating Well Done Fox, but he had significant trouble. And Joel Rosario rides that one. He does not ride Shang. And I love Joel in the turf sprints. So while Pocket Dynamo might be a cut below these horses in the races he's run, I think he's run well enough, and I want a price. He's going to be 15, 20 to 1 in here. This race, a lot of horses can win here. Do I really want to take Sergei Prokofiev at a short price? No, I don't. I don't really want to take the number 10 horse at a shorter price. I want prices in here. The number 3 horse, I'm not even sure that I mentioned him. He is my 4th choice in this race. I'll try to figure out which horse he actually is, because there's so much going on. That's Well Done Fox. I'm taking Europeans at the end of the day in here. In general, the European turf sprinters are not necessarily better than our horses, the olders. But in this case, I'm thinking they're going to be better than the 2-year-olds. 12, 8, 10, 3 in a wide-open juvenile turf sprint, the first running in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, to kick off the card. And remember, you can always get those 10% winners bonuses on all doubles that'll be interlinking Breeders' Cup races. 4 of them on Friday, 8 of them on Saturday. $10 minimum bet, 10% winners bonus. And of course, you want to play it through Naira Bets. Bet 200, get 250. That promotion goes through Breeders' Cup Saturday, November 3rd. Use promo code BC250 and get $250 as a new member once you've bet $200 on these exciting Breeders' Cup races.